Happy Thanksgiving and welcome to Thursday Night Grind, episode 48. Here we are on the 26th of November, 2020. And after 48 weeks now of grinding whatever's on the bench at the American Edge, my customers don't disappoint. And I was worried when I started this whole thing back in January that I'd just be doing chef knives over and over again. But no, man, it's tons of diversity. So we'll get into a Mezzaluna this week, and I just coupled in an ULU knife with that because I have one and they're similar, but a couple differences. I look forward to hearing from you on how you use these tools in the kitchen because I have some ideas, but I don't find myself reaching for them, and maybe I should. So let me know how you're using these if you are. And then also in my research of them, there's a bunch of applications, right? From processing animals, fish, even to self-defense. So if you're using them outside of the kitchen, I would be curious on that as well. Maybe more the ULU knife than the Mezzaluna. I don't know. So I welcome your input. Either way, I did figure out how to sharpen them, at least my way. And if you have a different way of sharpening them, I'd like to hear that too. Before we get into sharpening that, it is my pleasure to let you know that this episode of the Thursday Night Grind is brought to you by the Guild of Professional Sharpeners. You can learn more about that at guildofsharpeners.org. And that is where we are building a community of people who are learning to sharpen, much like what this video series is helping out with. And in so doing, also learning how to monetize that skill through the form of a business. And the biggest news, which I am blessed to have been part of and share today, is the reason why number 4 for Zach was brought into this world today. And I just want to welcome Levi to the world. And I'm just honored to be part of this journey with Zach. So if you don't know, part of the Guild's repository includes a course called The Foundations for Success, which is all about the framework on building the business from everything. But the important part I want to talk about today is we start out with the why. Why do you really understand, why do you want to start a sharpening business? And I have some modules and then some exercises to gain clarity around the reason why, and then understand, it just helps guide the journey. The analogy that seems fitting is like when a ship leaves port, it has a destination in mind and it plots its path to get there. And I think that, maybe you've seen this in life too, whether for yourself or other places, like people get on cruise control, they don't really know where they're going. So one thing I want to do is be real deliberate about studying what it is we want and then implementing things to get to that destination. And Zach is thinking on a timeline, much like my own, where he's thinking in terms of generations, not just for himself. And this came up in a show that I listened to recently with J.L. Collins. And he doesn't do like a target retirement fund because he's not investing for retirement. He's investing for 7 generations. He thinks of investing in terms of 300 years. And a lot of people that never even consider that, right? And but a lot of what I'm building is largely for my family, and it's great to have the other people along for the ride with whom that message resonates. So if that message or whatever your why might be for taking responsibility for some of where your money comes from, and building something that you own and that you control, please check out the Guild of Professional Sharpeners. And again, that is at guildofsharpeners.org. So now let us dive into sharpening a Mezzaluna and an ULU knife. Before we jump into grinding, I just wanted to show a few things. First off, this is the Mezzaluna here. This is what my customer dropped off. This is an ULU knife. This is my own. And they look kind of the same. They work in the same function. I don't use them. I don't know much about them, but it did catch my eye that there is a symmetrical bevel on this one, and there is a chisel grind on this one. And the other thing I wanted to show you was that if you don't know the angle and you really want to match it, you could go this is the tool from the Tormek, and on it are some notches with angles in them. So you could find in this case, it happens to be around the 40. I'm not going to be able to show you here, but like, I actually had to do it under the magnifying glass. And but anyway, just bear in mind too, this is the whole angle. So if you're cutting a symmetrical bevel, you half it. So it's about, I'm going to treat it like the standard 21 degrees like I do. And the other tool I wanted to show you is this tool. This is made for scissors. This is from Wolf Industries. And it is hard to tell on a small blade like this. But if you were really in a pinch and you really wanted to know what the angle was that was on it without doing a scratch test on a belt or a stone, these are some options. And I also just wanted to show you, this is the cutting board that I have for the ULU knife, which is pretty sweet. Breaking it out actually kind of made me want to think I should use it. I don't have a good reason for not using it other than I just have my routine. These are sold mostly for like doing small veg, chopping up veg, right? And then it's all, this bowl has the indentation in it, which you saw, it's hollowed out. So the veg stays in there. You could also do the same thing on the flat side and the back. Nothing saying you can't use that side. So pretty cool. It would be fun if I looped it into my routine. If you use one, make sure you let me know in the comments what you like most about it and what you find yourself cutting when you reach for your Mezzaluna or your ULU knife. Onto the grinding. You can do the voiceover for this. If you've been with me for a while, you'll notice a little different setup going on here. This is all largely due to dust collection that I have set up. What I was just doing, I turned on the dust collector with that remote, and then there are blast gates directing the suction to either one of these tools. And now I'm just doing the first cut on the Mezzaluna on the 1x30, sighting it in like that was my version of the scratch test, see if I'm getting it close to what it originally was, and working both sides of that blade. You'll notice that I look at the blade frequently during the cut, and I would advise you to do the same. What I'm looking for, I've really trained my eye to see the burr as it comes up, so I can tell when I'm cutting to the edge, and then I can see little nicks that I might be missing. And in this case, it was a little bit harder to grind out at the ends of the blade, so I had to pay a little bit closer attention to that. Here I am adjusting the blast gate, so now the suction goes from the 1x30 to this downdraft table with a series of work sharp blade grinding attachments. Those are all connected to one power strip, and I noticed before I got rolling here that the last blade I had done was a serrated knife, so they're set at 10 degrees, and now I am resetting each one of these to 21. With that little switch, they all come on, and so do the lights. Here's one. I've been toying around with the best way to put that compound on the cloth belt from Worksharp. See how green it looks now? I have been finding that I like the results better when I touch the compound to the pulley rather than a slack belt portion of the belt. But anyway, back to grinding on the coarse belt with the Worksharp system. This is how this thing operates. Easy breezy. Set the blade at 0 on the little bench on the blade grinding attachment, and then because they're all set at the same angle, I just go from one belt to the next. Constant reminder to go slow, but not too slow. Light pressure, let the belt do the work. I do reset my hand to the 0 degree every time. Though I've done enough blades, I could probably get away with just doing it. But this has become what my default action is, which is good. Finishing up on the fine belt, I found that coming off of the 120 grit on the 1x30, right to the coarse belt on the Worksharp, 1 pass on the coarse belt, 2 passes on the fine, and 2 passes on the cloth belt seem to be a nice place for me at the moment. What you can't see, but I can, is when I'm doing this, I can watch the burr forming or the little flakes coming off as we essentially undercut that burr and the wire edge flies off. And in this case on the cloth wheel, sorry, that was with reference to working through the progression. On the cloth wheel, you can see them go away. My opinion is that this sequence is, the cloth belt is mandatory for this sequence. The finishing process on the other belts was inferior to what we get out of that cloth belt. Might as well do that ULU knife while we're down here, right? So now I'm adjusting the blast gate so the suction's going to the 1x30. And this was a good one. I'm not going to go through the whole thing with you here. I'll speed ahead. But standard operating here, like we're going to cut a new bevel, build a burr on the 1x30. But it goes a little different, right? Because this is a chisel grind. So what are we going to do with that burr that we put up on the flat side of the ULU knife? That's what. We'll push it back with the wire wheel. Okay, so this was good. You might notice right here, I look at it and I'm like, what is that? There was a little damage to the blade. I'm not sure how it happened. I didn't notice it at first, but it took a little bit of work. There's a little ding, had to push it back. Now I need to cut that bevel a little bit more to get that ding squared away. The other thing, this is my knife. I'm not uber picky about it. I figured it's going to be a 21-degree chisel grind, which is actually a very shallow bevel for a knife. Right, because if it was a symmetrical bevel, the working bevel would actually be 42. So it's going to be finer and more fragile. But that's good. Move the blast gates, suction go into the drown draft table, hit the switch, they all come on, as do the lights, and start taking some passes here. Something weird happened on this blade, and I wanted to make sure I didn't miss it, because it happens often in sharpening where you're moving through your sequence and something doesn't look right. And I think it happened when I got to the fine belt, so maybe we'll zoom up there. But anyway, actually, this is good too, right? So now I'm pushing the burr back to the flat side, and every time I do that, I go push the burr back to the bevel on the wire wheel. So the wire wheel is just over there spinning, just waiting for me. I think now I'm getting a little perplexed. Like, what? Something's funny. In the interest of time, we'll go wicked fast here, but this is so I should be seeing that bevel forming when I'm coming off that fine belt, but so I'm checking something like that. All right, let's go back to the 1x30. Let's start this process over. We're at one pass on the 1x30, brings that back. Let's go to the coarse. Bevel's showing, the burr's showing up. We'll take it off. Let's go to the fine. And we're grooving. Okay. The rest of the process is pretty much the same as before, with going back to the wire wheel instead of cutting both sides. So we'll just keep cruising through this one. And for the last stroke, put a little more compound on here. And a nice finishing stroke. Pull all the little flakes off. I do still sometimes wipe down the blade after I'm done, before cleaning. I hope you pulled a couple hot tips out of that. And before you go, if you could just do those things that are really simple, like subscribe, hit the thumbs up, and leave a comment, either adding to the conversation, asking a question. Let me know how you use the Mezzaluna or the ULU knife, or just say, thanks man, cool vid, I appreciate what you're doing. All that stuff kind of helps me. It motivates me to keep showing up every Thursday night. So thank you to all of you on this Thanksgiving. I'm expressing my gratitude to you for being here, for watching, and for commenting on my videos, and please share them as well. And again, if you're interested in starting a sharpening business for yourself, please be sure to check out guildofsharpeners.org, and I will see you next Thursday.